Let's talk about something we've all done. You know, that little mental habit of replaying conversations over and over in your head? Well, today, we're going to break down why your brain gets stuck in that loop, and more importantly, we'll get into how you can actually learn to guide it instead of letting it control you. So, let's dive right in.
You know that moment, right? You're finally lying in bed, the day's over, it's quiet, and then, bam, your brain hits you with it, that one little question. And just like that, you're not in bed anymore. You're right back in that conversation from hours ago, dissecting every single word, every tiny pause, every facial expression. It's totally exhausting, isn't it? Now, the first thing to get is that this is not just you overthinking things. That mental replay is a very specific function of your brain. It's not some kind of glitch. It's actually a signal. Your brain is trying to tell you something important. And once we learn how to read that signal, we can totally change our relationship with this whole pattern.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of this. Why on earth does this happen? Well, it pretty much all comes down to your brain's deep, almost primal need for a very specific type of closure.
Here's the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Your brain absolutely cannot stand emotionally unfinished business. You see, a conversation is way more than just words. It's an exchange of emotional signals. When those signals are clear, when everything feels resolved, your brain just files the memory away, no problem. But when they're ambiguous, it flags that interaction as an open case, a mystery that has to be solved.
So, think of your brain as this little social detective. It's constantly on the lookout, scanning for clues, tone of voice, facial expressions, those tiny little pauses. And it's always asking one fundamental question. Are we good here? Did that go okay? If the answer is a clear yes, awesome, it moves on. But if the answer is a murky, I'm not really sure, well, that's the trigger. The case file is opened and the replay starts.
And have you ever noticed? Your brain doesn't bother replaying the smooth, easy conversations. I mean, why would it? The case is closed. It selectively obsesses over the ones that felt just a little bit off. You know, the almost awkward moments, the joke that was met with just a half-second too much silence. Those are the moments that contain the uncertainty it's so desperate to solve.
And this gets to what's really at stake. On the surface, you might think you're fixated on whether a joke landed or not. But underneath, your brain is wrestling with much, much deeper questions about acceptance and belonging and your place in the social world. It is never just about the words. It's about what those words might mean for your social safety. So here's the big reframe. This whole process, as frustrating as it feels, is actually a protective mechanism. Your brain isn't trying to torture you by making you relive the past. It's running simulations. It's trying to learn and adjust and build a better strategy so that the next time you're in a similar situation, you'll be safer and smarter and feel more secure. The only problem is, it just doesn't know when to stop. Okay, so now that we get why this happens, we can get to the really practical part. Because knowing the reason is the first step, right? The next and most powerful step is learning how to work with this process instead of just fighting against it. We can actually guide our brain to a much more productive place. This simple shift in language, it changes everything. Seriously. The old question, why did I say that? Well, it traps you right inside the loop. It's a question that's just loaded with self-judgment. But this new question, what is my brain trying to figure out? It completely transforms you. You go from being the subject of the criticism to being a curious observer. You're no longer the one on trial, you're the detective trying to understand the case. So here's the new process. First, just notice the replay is starting. No judgment, just awareness. Ah, there it is again. Simple. Second, you ask that new curious question. What's the real uncertainty here? Is it about whether I sounded confident? Or maybe it's about whether that person likes me. Then third, and this is the absolute key, you reframe it by giving the story a neutral ending. Because let's be honest, perfect closure is almost never going to happen. This is exactly what a neutral ending sounds like. It is not forced positivity. It's not telling yourself, oh, they definitely loved my joke. Your brain is too smart for that. It knows you're just guessing. Instead, you're just refusing to automatically turn uncertainty into a negative story. You're acknowledging the ambiguity and letting it exist. And that tells your brain, okay, you can stop trying to solve this now.
Now, this whole practice of reframing, it's not just some quick mental trick. It's actually the foundation for a much, much bigger shift. Moving out of a state of anxiety and into a state of learning. It's all about channeling your brain's raw power in a really constructive way.
And let me be really clear about this. Ultimately, we are not trying to eliminate this function of the brain. Replaying social situations is part of how we learn and adapt.
The real goal is to separate the helpful analysis from the painful, unproductive self-criticism that gets all tangled up with it.
And right here, these are the two paths. Self-criticism asks, why am I like this? Which is a total dead-end question that just keeps you stuck. But a growth mindset asks, that was interesting. What can I learn from that? This transforms that feeling of anxiety into a data point for future improvement. One path keeps you stuck in a loop, the other one propels you forward.
So I'll leave you with this question. By understanding this process, you're no longer just a passive passenger in your own mind. You have a choice. You can stay trapped in that old loop, or you can become the curious observer who guides it. So the next time it happens, you'll know exactly what to do. You can pause, take a breath, and decide. What are you going to ask?